and he chose the price. He sat at the head of the table. The other four representatives sat at the table. They threw some prices round and came out. That is the guy who single-handedly, over a period of just over a decade, brought the price down from $800 to just below $300 an ounce. It all happened in his office, steadily chipping it all away. So it wasn't something that he suddenly realized was happening and took action. He was one of the main protagonists in making it happen. That is utterly undeniable, and as Bill said, it is a matter of open record until 1995, by which time the damage had been done. Once it had got down to that price, by 1998 to 99, we find Gordon doing the insane sell-offs at those prices, taking an extra $40 off by announcing the sale in advance.
Why did they get out of this fixing business? I think it was around 2004. Why did they say they were no longer going to be involved?
Well, that was partly to do with the new European system of central banks, and it was also partly to do with the Internet. He started to feel very uncomfortable, Bill, because at the time that he was doing those settlements in London, hardly anybody knew. If you weren't a member of the London Bullion Market Association, you didn't know what the process was. It was clandestine. The British public didn't understand. If the British public understood that one man was setting the price for gold worldwide, effectively, they would have been up in arms. But as the information started coming out about what he'd been up to and this position of privilege that the government had given him, and he just did not want to be associated with that whatsoever, because, you know, there are all sorts of allegations, and you get into the politics of accusations, etc., and defending yourself using slogans like anti-Semitism when we're talking about gold. So, you know, people get very, very nervous when they get and that's the bottom line.
You know, well, but I have one question for you, because we've been talking about this among our group for so long. Do you think it's also possible that he knew what we've been talking about earlier, that this thing could blow up, and he wanted to get as far away from it, or they did as a firm, as possible? In other words, if this derivative thing we're talking about and the overcommitment, and nobody would know better than this firm of the scam we're talking about. He says in other words, he knew it was going to blow up someday, so they wanted out, didn't want to be around it.
That's right. They didn't want to be there when it all goes wrong.
That's
absolutely.
My point.
But
you agree with
also,
that?
he was on the receiving end of those purchase prices. When we start looking at who took physical delivery of those British sales, I think you'll find that he wasn't very far away, because they knew it was going to blow up, but they also understood that they'd been manipulating the price down, that you can do that for a decade, maybe even 2 decades, create an artificial price. But ultimately, the law of markets is, and this is the point, once he's removed and put it out to the market, this price has started climbing back again over 10 years. Once the manipulation had gone, it's finding its natural level, and it's still on the way there. And this is a very important point now, Bill, because gold's now hit the 1200 mark, and it's being taken seriously as an investment medium. The press in this country has not been able to avoid the question of why did Gordon sell it off so cheap. So the mainstream media have picked up on that story, and as gold continues to grow in price, I believe, and it becomes more attractive as an investment, and more people chase it, all these other questions will come into the limelight, like, you know, why was the price down there? Why are these people depressing the price? Why are they able to short more than the entire gold stock of the world? Why? All these whys are going to start coming out, and the first one is, why did you sell off our gold so cheap? He's lost $7 billion at today's prices, and the British public want blood.
Well, and you know, guys, I have to say, Bill, one of the only advertisers that's still buying airtime on British television is sell your gold to us. Put it in an envelope, and we'll give you the top price. And you might, in an hour's time, you'll see 20 different companies all vying for the public's scrap gold, and it's the only ads that they have on TV anymore. I mean, this is turning into like a nightmare for these people, because you can see that everyone in the world is becoming desperate for the physical, and it's going to end badly for a lot of these crooks as far as where the story ends. But interesting, Muhammad and I have actually looked into other markets and the frauds that have gone on in the treasury sales and so many other things. We're talking about a systemic failure of not only the gold market but the Fed's treasury markets. And there's so many places right now that are on the precipice that it won't take much to send the whole thing into a crumble.
That's right. I have one question. Where did you guys learn so much about the gold market? I mean, I've never had such a sophisticated conversation before with people outside our group.
We've been doing this a long time.
I started at the Bank of England about 25 years ago, Bill, and I've worked in the City of London for most of that time on and off, and I've worked on the bullion desk at one of the largest Dutch banks.
And me, Bill,
it's so impressive, and I'm not just doing this to stroke you. I really mean it. It's a pleasure to be a part of this discussion.
Well, Bill, a decade ago, a little more than that, I was a teacher of finance here in France, and I got to the point where I couldn't teach anymore because I didn't believe what I was telling my students. so I had to leave, and I'm a hound dog. If you put the scent in front of me, I'm going to follow it. And I linked up with a lot of good quality researchers over time, and we've been able to extract a whole set of facts, not just in the gold markets, but in many markets. And it all leads back to the same people in both instances. And of course, again, we run the risk of being called a religious. We were against a certain religion or something. That is a complete nonsense. We have only gone to where the facts lead us. And we want to be very clear that much of what we learn about this crime wave comes from the Jewish community. They themselves publish a lot of the information we end up getting, and they collaborate with the exposure of a lot of this as well. So it's certainly not, in our view, anything to do with anti-Semitism, but the fact is, when you get to the top, you find Goldman Sachs, you find M. N. Rothschild, you find people over at JP, and you'll find that a certain group is in de facto control of all of it. And it's painful to watch the rest of the world be afraid to confront these facts for fear of being called a name by the group that we're investigating. So it's kind of like a criminal saying, you're an anti-criminal or something, and that's supposed to be an epithet that keeps you from investigating them. And we've ended up in a situation now where we're not very worried about what they call us. We're more interested in bringing out as many facts to as many people as we can. And I think that's been GATA's role. And I go to your website regularly, Bill. I actually have never missed a single week where I haven't spent some time perusing the things you're doing. And frankly, a lot of our stuff has been spawned through your research, I must be honest.
Well, thank you. Well, we're all fighting the good fight, and I want to thank you very much for this discussion, and I've enjoyed it immensely.
Well, we've got about a minute and a half here, Mohammed. Do you want a closing statement before we shut this interview down?
Yeah, I'd just like to say the same as what you're just saying, Dal. It's great work which the GATA site has been putting together and the guys have been doing. The fact that they've been challenging in the courts stateside and that they're challenging the press to look at this stuff and pick up these stories and the mainstream media. It's crucial work. We need more people out there doing this kind of thing, taking it to them, taking the fight to them, make the words come out of their own mouth as GATA have done, because a fact is a fact. You can lie around it all day long. It still doesn't change the fact. A fact remains a fact.
That's right. And Bill, I'll give you the last word on this broadcast, Bill.
No, just thanks very much for having me on. It's hopefully your listeners are a bit more enlightened. As I said, we've been on this for 11 years. I think the story is going to break big time in the weeks and months ahead. We'll see. I think once we get the first 2 or 3 stories in the mainstream press, then it'll catch fire. But everyone's afraid to talk about it, for what I said earlier. So it's close. and as you mentioned, I can't wait for the bad guys to get theirs.
Well, me too. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring us to the end of this hour-long discussion we've had here. I do hope to have further discussions with both Bill, Adrian, and even Mr. McGuire, if we can possibly get him on to talk about these issues. And it's all very important for the future of all of our families. And so keep a close eye on what's going on in this world. Things are hotting up. And until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Daryl Bradford Smith telling you all, please, be well. Bye-bye now.